Most men today are chasing the wrong definition of a 10 out of 10. Money, status, attention, validation. But let me ask you something. What if the real standard of a man was defined over 1,400 years ago? Not by influencers, not by society, but by the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself. And the scary part? Most men today wouldn't even come close. So what actually makes a man a 10 out of 10 in Islam? Let's start with something most men fail at: anger. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The strong man is not the one who can wrestle, but the one who controls himself when angry." Think about that. Real strength isn't dominance, it's control. Anyone can explode, but controlling your anger when you have the power to act, that's strength. But here's where it gets deeper. Most men try to look good in public, nice outside, respected outside. But at home, different person, harsh, impatient, distant. The Prophet, peace be upon him, completely destroyed this fake image. He said, "The best of you are those who are best to their families." Not your friends, not your followers, your family. Because that's where your real character shows. But being a man isn't just about behavior, it's about responsibility. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Each of you is a shepherd, and each of you is responsible for his flock." Let that sink in. You're not here to just exist. You're accountable for your family, your actions, your decisions. And that leads to something most men ignore today: providing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned, "It is sufficient sin for a man that he neglects those he is responsible for." Providing isn't optional. It's not just being nice. It's an obligation. And fulfilling it, that's worship. Neglecting it, that's sin. But here's the part nobody talks about. What you do when no one is watching. The private life, the hidden habits. Allah commands in the Quran to lower the gaze. But the real test is when no one would ever find out. That's what separates discipline from hypocrisy. And speaking of discipline, your words matter. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The signs of a hypocrite are three. When he speaks, he lies. When he promises, he breaks it." So every broken promise, it's not small. It's a crack in your character. Now let's talk about the foundation of everything: prayer. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Between a man and disbelief is abandoning prayer." This isn't just another habit. This is the line. Everything else comes after this. No prayer, no foundation. And here's something a lot of people misunderstand. Islam doesn't want you to be weak. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer." Strength matters, mentally, spiritually, and yes, physically too. But here's the final piece, the one that ties everything together: your nafs, your desires, your urges. If you can't control yourself, nothing else matters. Because a man who is controlled by his desires isn't free, he's a slave. But a man who controls his nafs, that's a man in control of his life. So a 10 out of 10 man in Islam isn't defined by looks, or money, or status. He's defined by control. Control over anger, control over desires, control over his responsibilities, and most importantly, control over his relationship with Allah. Because at the end of the day, that's the only standard that actually matters.